Breaking news, something big and crazy is going on between Kenya and USA. So Kenya becomes the first African country to allegedly sell healthcare data to USA. Can you imagine this? So recently, the Kenyan president just signed a deal with USA. This deal is worth $2.5 billion, where Kenya is supposed to provide healthcare data to USA, and in return, USA is going to fund them, that they are going to contribute $2.5 billion. Can you imagine this? So the president of Kenya just decided to sell over 50 million healthcare data to just for only $2.5 billion. This information is from a Kenyan activist called Nelson Amenya. He is the one who is exposing what the government is doing. Let me tell you, this guy has all the evidence and he can be trusted because he is the same person who exposed the same government of trying to sell a public airport. Can you imagine this? And now Kenyans, they have questions and they want answers. They want their president to explain how this deal is supposed to help Kenyans. How is this supposed to benefit Kenyans? How can you sell data, healthcare data of people to a foreign country? How is this even possible?
In this bold move in the fight against political neocolonialism, Kenyans have shown boldness in coming out to castigate their president, William Ruto, for engaging the US government in what they term a health deal. This is a health deal whereby Kenyan data, the data for Kenyans in terms of health, will be shared by the American government in terms of funding. This will come in exchange of funding. So how risky will this expose Kenya? Or what is the benefit? What is these two governments trying to do? Is it neocolonialism coming back to hit Kenya deeply? Or will it be beneficial to Kenyans? So let us watch this video or reactions from different Kenyans talking about it. And also a lawyer called Okiya Mtata filed a case against this one, and the court has paused or stopped this move of funding. So let us watch this and react to it in the end.
Hey, my lovely people. I want us to talk about this thing above here. These are news in Kenya. Let me read it for you. President Ruto is about to sign a 25-year deal that gives the US government real-time access to all Kenyans' health records, your HIV status, TB treatment, your children's vaccination records, everything. They get rights to your disease specimens within 5 days of any request. Authority to share with 10 US pharmaceutical companies. And all this is happening without your consent. Guys, these are updates happening in Kenya, and there's something I want to tell you about the US. When you hear the US, there are two governments in the US. There's the cabal, there's the deep state in the US, and there's the, quote unquote, the democratically elected government that people, like what we call the Trump government. Let me tell you guys, there's American arms of government that are purely under the cabal, under the elite. For example, the CIA, entirely, like they operate as a government of their own. So what you see above here, this is the implementation of the New World Order. It is slow, it is meticulous, it is clear on what they are doing. But what I know it is that they are violating the Kenyan constitution. How does a government sign such a deal here that is outrightly against your basic human rights as a Kenyan? That's what they're doing with our biometrics. That's what they're doing. They're giving, when they're scanning your eyes, when they're taking your fingerprints, they're putting a database, they're transferring that document to third parties who are not Kenyan authorities. You know what is happening, guys? It is a meticulous, slow but sure implementation of the New World Order, and it starts from you losing your freedom. As I told you guys, it's an enslavement. You know what happens when someone takes all your biometrics? They've scanned your eyes, they've taken everything about. They have your DNA. That's slavery, my friends. This is slavery. And Ruto is selling this country. Ruto is auctioning, not a country. You is auctioning every single.
This is for entertainment purposes only, family. So the High Court has suspended the Kenya-US health deal. This is like breaking news. They said a conservative order is hereby issued suspending, staying, and restraining the respondents, whether by themselves, their agents, or assigns, from implementing or giving effect to the health cooperation framework executed between the government of Kenya and the government of the United States of America. Hey! So, yeah, the suspension applies insofar as the agreement provides for or facilitates the transfer, sharing, or dissemination of medical, epidemiological, or sensitive personal health data. This is great. This is absolutely great. This is a big win. And shockingly, like Liberia, I mean, Paula for them, they just signed the same deal. You know, they started with Kenya, and they were moving to 41 other countries, because Kenya, as I always tell you, family, is a gateway nation. If it works here, it's going to penetrate the rest of Africa. It's like the portal to Africa is through Kenya. That's why Kenya was chosen for the revival. Anyway, I'm getting too carried away. But yes, something is working in our favor, and we have something to celebrate. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
President Ruto tour in US. First, he witnessed the deal between Rwanda and Congo. Second, he's expected to sign a deal with the US government to give out our health data to the US government without our consent. Going forward, the US government can access our health records through our government without our consent. Number 3, he's also expected to meet officials of the IMF. I don't know which type of loan he will be taking, but expect some loan from IMF.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the media on this occasion of this petition that has been filed, one by Consumers Federation of Kenya and another by myself, seeking to stop the so-called the framework agreement, the cooperation framework agreement between Kenya and the United States on health. Now, this particular issue, at the heart of this whole thing, is what happened in this country on 27th of August 2010. When we got the new constitution of Kenya, and there was a major shift. In the old constitution, executive sovereign power resided in the president. In the new constitution, sovereign power resides in the people. At the heart of this petition is the question, to whom does health data belong? And the answer emphatically is that they belong to each individual. And if health data has to be harvested for any reason to be shared beyond the medical facility, there needs to be a proper mechanism where every individual gives their consent to have their data shared. We are not subjects, we are citizens. We are not subjects of the president. We are citizens of the Republic of Kenya, and our data belongs to each one of us individually. So at that point alone, I thought that what was done in Washington was totally bad. Number 2, when you look at the contract, if I can remember some parts of the agreement, you find that Article 19 claims it is not a treaty. But if you look at the obligations in there, they bind the government. That's a very, very deceptive attempt to put this agreement outside the framework of the Constitution. You know very well that Articles 2, Clause 6 say that any treaty ratified by Kenya is part of the Kenyan law. And that 2 Clause 5 says that instruments of international law will apply, principles of international law will apply to Kenya. But when you say it is not a treaty, it's outside that arrangement, then what are we dealing with? How can the government purport to act outside the purview of the law or the Constitution and other statutes? Then if you go to Article 5, Section 5, Clause 7 of the same agreement, it says something to the effect that Kenyan law is expected to apply. It doesn't say Kenyan law will apply. They say Kenyan law is expected to apply. Why should Kenyan law be expected to apply and not just to apply? Basically, the agreement has been drafted in a manner that it's put outside the framework of the law. And whoever did that intentionally, because he knows that the contents of the agreement, if implemented, have major impact on the constitution. It contravenes the constitution in extreme ways. For example, health is a devolved function. There's been no involvement of the Senate, no involvement of the other organs. You go ahead, you find that when you look at the question of Chapter 12, public finance, there are major agreements on finances, committing the Kenyan government to pay, I think it's 10, then 20, then I think 30, 40, and 50 billion shillings over that period of year, incrementally. Who has appropriated that money? Why is the government going to get that money? You go further, you find that there are thousands of employees, the people who are going to be recruited to work under this arrangement. And then in 2028, when the arrangement expires, they are supposed to transfer to the government. Where is the Public Service Commission? How do we get sure of that? Or where are the commission, the Council of Governors, who are supposed to take on these people? So we cannot just do things that are, like there's no procedure. You go back to issues of sovereignty of this republic, you find that the instrument is couched in a language that makes Kenya a client state of the United States of America. So, among these things, and you know, health data is very important. Those of you who remember, in the very America, about what happened to black people, the Castigate syphilis research, where they subjected black people to syphilis trials and stuff like that. What guarantee do we have that we are not opening up Kenya to be a laboratory of guinea pigs for experiments on various things? It happened just the other day in the US. Some of those people have just died recently. It's not that something that happened long time in history. So with that kind of experience whereby black people have been used as guinea pigs for research and then documented, we cannot just sit back and say that we are going to share our information with the Americans without the guarantees that the laws of Kenya provide. So that attempt to put this thing out of the law is good. It was not good, and I'm happy that the courts have stood up and injuncted this particular process. And so, in February, we shall go back to slug it out, but principally, health data belongs to the individual, not to the state. And the state cannot commoditize it. It cannot be made into a commodity for trade. It is only the individual who is affected who can surrender their health data to a third party who is not the medical facility where they are being attended to. And that's something that needs to come out, and that's something you will not see in the contract. We are being treated like commodity, like property of the state, just like what we are seeing with securitization of whatever they are securitizing now, taxes and whatever. We are being treated like that. And that is why I personally went to court to reject that kind of arrangement and to demand that the domestic law is applicable to any contract, and any treaty that is signed must be subject to the Constitution of Kenya. It must submit to parliamentary supervision. It must submit to judicial oversight. It must submit to the Bill of Rights and things like those. It cannot just be that because we need some money, therefore we sell our birthright. And we talk of birthrights and selling birthrights. I'm sure you remember the story of Esau and Jacob in the Bible, where Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. Exactly what Ruto is doing, trying to sell a birthright for a bowl of soup of some 300 or whatever billion US dollars. So, I'm most grateful, and I promise that this is going to be contested heavily, and if need be, the final decision might come out of the Supreme Court. This is a matter of life and death. This is an existential threat to the identity of the republic and to the fundamental rights of the individual as a human being with the dignity that must be respected and obeyed. So unless you have a question, I will beg to stop there.
Can it be
President William Ruto, for whatever reasons, operates largely outside the law. He runs, if you look at his budgets, he's running around with things, he's borrowing money outside the law. And he's now selling the family silverware for the sake of supporting budgets and things like those. I wouldn't construe why it's looked at, but if you look at his agenda is unhinged. He thinks that he can throw money at Kenyans and resolve our problems. So that unhinged agenda is the reason behind which we end up with this kind of excesses. But for whatever it is, for whatever reason the president wants money, there is a law in this country, and I think that the rule of law is paramount. And come rain, come sunshine, the law of Kenya will stand. And there's no end that can justify disregard for the law in this country. So if he wants money, let him go to Article 220. He can borrow money the way the Constitution allows it. 221. So we cannot just come up with budgets that are extra constitutional and begin implementing them and saying that we are implementing budgets. And yet, if you look at the money they are talking of compared to what is being stolen from this country, we don't need that money. If we just tightened our nuts and they dealt with our public assets well, we don't need that money over the. If you divide that money over five years, it doesn't amount to a lot of money. So it's money you can do without. And so it's not money that you can be able to say that it's a matter of life and death. And so I think that our health systems can finance themselves. They should get rid of this thing called SHIF and SHA, these scams, and come back and look at the facility improvement funds that we have set up in the Senate, and our health systems will run. But trying to look for this kind of blood money is something that I don't think we can accept, whereby basically you are killing our entire nation to surrender money. But I know that William Ruto is a postcard president that the West would like to have, because when they ask him to jump, he asks how high do I jump? There's nothing else he's doing in this country other than to serve interests that he thinks will perpetuate his stay in power.
and now that it is obvious Ruto is violating the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, can the Senate file an impeachment motion and kick him out of office?
Well, it is possible, but an impeachment motion has to come from the National Assembly. The Senate only sits like a trial court. But all said and done, there are grave violations of the Constitution. And I think there was a petition that was filed by some group some time back that enlisted about 40 violations of the Constitution that the president has committed. And so I think what we need to do is to give our Constitution life by standing up and pushing, and not necessarily waiting for the institutions to act, but acting as citizens to make sure that we are able to get rid of this curse called William Ruto before he makes us past tense in this country.
The United States are not being honest with the Kenyans, because how will this data be at the disposal, or rather at their disposal? How will this data, a data of a sovereign state, be held by another country? This is so unfortunate, and it comes at a time when the United States is trying to bring a new order that might even lead to creation of viral loads that can affect different countries. Although they say that this one will help them model a funding for the country, but are we weighing the risk with the benefits? Because the United States and the whites have never been honest for a longest time. I remember there was a video that circulated where Bill Gates was saying that Africans should be reduced by a third. The population is surging, and they should be reduced by a third. So when these kind of informations are being shared to a country that can bear such statements, then we have to see, or we have to question the ill motive in it. there must be an ill motive, and the ill motive will come later. It is coming with the face of a funding and help, but deep down there must be something happening that we will expose in other videos when that time comes. So I want you to share your thought. Do you feel that the United States are being honest with Kenyans, or this is just a scheme to achieve their Make America Great Again, as someone has just said in this commentary? So tell us what you feel, and also do not forget to subscribe to this channel, like, share, comment, and God will bless you for sure if you do that. Thank you, and may God bless you.